Charleston City Council member Harry Griffin has filed for re-election to continue to serve the residents of District 10 in West Ashley. I speak exclusively with him about re-election and his recent DUI charges that were just dropped for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Charleston City Councilman Harry Griffin, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks for having me, Quintin. Always a pleasure to speak with you. Wish we could do it in person, but hopefully soon.
Soon, and hopefully the rain will hold off during this particular interview. But I know that you are Charleston City Councilman Harry Griffin, and obviously you represent District 10, which covers mostly West Ashley. Just yesterday on your Facebook page, you said this,
yes, sir.
Quote, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm officially on the ballot. I couldn't sleep last night because I was so excited to file to serve you for 4 more years." Who is Harry Griffin now versus 4 years ago?
Well, I remember when you and I sat in the science building at the College of Charleston for the very first time. I was young, man. I was 22 years old, and really I didn't know what I was doing. I just had a passion to serve, and I wanted to help my neighbors. That passion is still here today and is stronger than ever. But I think over the last 4 years, what I've learned is it's a tough job. It's the most rewarding yet challenging job, public service. Because you're not going to get pats on the back. You don't do it for that. You do it so you can help your neighbors. And you have to realize it's a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to win every argument. You're not going to be on the winning side of every vote. You're going to have some slip-ups here and there along the way. But you have to be resilient. And you have to do what it takes to be a good representative of your people. And I've learned that through life experience through these last 4 years.
You talk about life experiences, Councilman Griffin. What's the argument about you these days?
Well, I think that there's a perception versus reality issue when it comes to me. You've met me. We've had dialogue. We've talked. There's people out there that have never met me, never talked to me on the phone, never taken 1 second of time to try to get to know me, that act like they do, like they know me better than anybody else. Whereas there's people that know me and have sat down with me, like the people that I serve on council with. They have a much better reality of the person that I am. And the fact of the matter is I have a big heart. I love my community. I love every single person in this city. And I don't judge anybody by their skin color. I judge them by the content of their character. A wise person told me recently, the people that matter, they don't need an explanation. And the people that don't, no explanation will do. So I've got to quit worrying about that 1% of people that are just out there to divide. And I've got to worry about the people that matter.
What is your character?
Well, I'm a Citadel man, and I'm proud of that. And I know that in the last few years, people have tried to discredit the Citadel, but it is a very, very exceptional institution of higher learning. We get this ring right here that stands for honor, duty, and respect, and we live by an honor code that a cadet will never lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do. And those are values that mean a lot to me, and that I try to live by that honor code every day.
You talk about reality versus perception. How should these people who have this perception about you respect you?
Give me a call. Come have a cup of coffee with me. Come to one of my events. Everybody is welcome. My door is always open. I'm not trying to divide this city. I'm trying to bring people together. I think the problem that I see are there are people that run to the cameras but don't run to the community meetings. And we've got to quit all that. The cameras and what goes on the news at 6 o'clock, that's not going to solve any problems. We've got to get a diverse group of people together to the table, and we've got to work it out. We've got to compromise. That's what this country was founded on.
Yes, sir. I had Yuri.
You can't hear me, can you?
I can hear you. Hey, Yuri. One of my Yuri Becker, who I interviewed, he said a little bit. I apologize about
Hey
that.
man, you're the most popular guy in Charleston. What can I say?
I try to hide out and just be normal for once. But let me go back to your Facebook post, Mr. Griffin. Who do you want? Well, before I can actually go to that, let me ask you this: who are the stakeholders that you want to bring to the table right now?
Listen, I want to bring people from a diverse group of background. I want to bring people from all over our city, because when you look at our city, West Ashley, Daniel Island, Johns Island, downtown, everybody's got different characteristics. Our people, we live in pockets of communities that all come together to form the city of Charleston. But the needs of our residents are diverse and unique to where they live. People that have different professional backgrounds, people that have different life experience. We all need to come together in different ways and get to the table and use our strengths and piggyback off each other's strengths instead of trying to tear down everybody's weaknesses. We need to find a way to look at everybody's strengths and build them up together so that we can continue to move forward, so that we can forge a path where we know that future generations are going to be proud of the city that they live in. And I'm concerned that we spend more time focusing on whether or not the tourists are going to like coming here and less time worrying about whether or not this is a livable place for our residents. So those are the key issues that I want to see us work together with a diverse group of people moving forward.
What are the characteristics of District 10?
Well, I'll tell you this, the people of District 10 are the hardest working. They care so much about their community. We pride ourselves in, not necessarily being so involved in the government per se. We just want to be able to live our life, not have a lot of government intervention, make sure that our trash gets picked up and our ditches get cleaned. But for the most part, it's a good place to raise a family, and there's not a lot of hostility. I've lived there my entire life. Well, since I was 7 years old, I grew up and was born and raised in Melrose until I was seven years old. Then I moved to Shadow Moss, and I bought my first house there, and I'm planning to raise my family there one day, God willing. So I'm here to stay, and I've been here, and that's the difference. The people that live in this district, they've been here. They have planted their roots here. They want to raise their kids here. They want to see their grandchildren here. That family respect is something that is very unique, really, to this city. Other parts of Charleston, have different characteristics. But you talk about families that have been around Charleston and West Ashley and have planted their roots, they're in a better place than District 10.
What is the quality of life then for District 10?
It gets better every day. I'm so proud of what we've accomplished over these last 4 years. When I ran 4 years ago, my platform was simple. It was fix the flooding, improve the traffic congestion, and be an active voice for the community. Drainage-wise, over the last 4 years, we've invested more funding into the Church Creek Basin than in the history of that area. Over 30 years, in the last 4, we've exponentially invested more money into District 10 and Church Creek. We implemented the strictest stormwater standards in the history of our city, tailored specifically for the Church Creek Basin. We created a TIF, which is Tax Increment Financing District, the only one in the state that every dollar that's raised in it goes directly back to flood relief. We created a beautiful Harris Teeter Shopping Center, the first piece of prosperous commercial development in the last decade. And I was at the table with Harris Teeter and the city, making sure that deal happened and that it was something that we could all be proud of. I am so proud of where we are today. We just invested several $1 million in grants to create green space, permanent green space in District 10. We took a Bridgepoint site, which was one of the biggest travesties in the history of this city, where 30 plus townhomes were flooded out repeatedly. We got with FEMA, we tore those down, and we're going to create a beautiful park there for the history of the city. We just approved a 17.5-acre lake up by Village Green. The quality of life in District 10 is getting better every day. I'm proud, but I'm not satisfied. We can always do more, but all of the building blocks are there. You know, we are on the path to success. We are on the path to prosperity. We're so close, and I just hope that I can earn the vote of the District 10 constituents for 4 more years so that I can see those projects through.
And on a silly note, I love Publix, but I've gotten accustomed to eating a Harris Teeter and getting their pizza slices.
They got great pizza, great subs.
Oh, yeah.
Harris Teeter is really great for our community, and that is one of the fastest growing Harris Teeters in the Southeast.
Wow.
So very proud about it.
Proud about that. Now, I'm going to have to disagree with you. The Publix subs are actually...
We'll have to agree to disagree. See, we can agree to disagree. Isn't that a nice thing? You never see people doing that anymore. I still love you.
Yes, I know you do. But let me get serious here, because you obviously you talk about obviously we a lot doing this particular interview, particularly with quality of life. But what exactly did you do for your district?
Well, all of those things that I just named, those are projects that I championed, that I led. I served on the committee to create those stormwater standards. I sat at the table with Harris Teeter and our city to make that deal happen. I sat at the table. I sit on the Church Creek Stormwater Authority. I sat at the table to help create that TIF district. I have been active in all of those things. If you come to a council meeting or listen to a council meeting, I don't stay silent. I make sure that the needs and the necessities of District 10 are at the forefront of our agenda every single time. And I'm proud of where we've come. I've seen positive change. I've seen the old flooded houses torn down. I've seen the designs to create these parks and create these ecosystems that will help us drain. I've met with the landowners to make these projects happen, not only for the 17.5-acre lake and some of the other drainage things, but also I've sat at the table with the people that own the land that are going to create the commercial development. Because every piece of commercial development that comes to District 10 and comes to the Church Creek Basin is going to be a stream of resources, money that we have never had before that could go directly back to flooding. So I've sat at the table with all those guys and I've rolled up my sleeves. And I'll tell you what, I pride myself on being the most accessible council person on our city council. My cell phone number is everywhere. I'm on social media, and I get back to my constituents. When they have a need, when their trash doesn't get picked up, when their ditch doesn't get cleaned, I make it happen, and I'm going to continue to make it happen as long as I'm in office and serving.
You talk about those stormwater standards. What is the biggest difference between when you got on council to right now?
Well, when I got on council, our standards were outdated. And probably the biggest was a property didn't have to hold water for very long before it could then go into the Church Creek Basin. And so because the water wasn't being held back in retention areas for very long, you had an inundation of water all at the same time. And we knew as I got on council that Church Creek was pretty much at its capacity. So for there to be future development, we had to be able to divert some water to other creeks. We've diverted water to Rantolls. We've taken water directly to the Ashley River. But we also have to be able to retain water on property for a certain number of hours and then allow it to go into that system. So we have created the new standards that the water's got to sit in there for up to 80 hours, which is unbelievable. That's several days before it finally gets into Church Creek. That gives us enough time to allow the water that's already in the system to come through before the water that it's in the retention areas does. Now, I'm not an engineer, and I know only basic stormwater concepts, but I can tell you this. I am so proud that 4 years that I've been on council, we have had no significant flooding issues to District 10. compared to the 4 years prior, we had flooded out homes, flooded out streets on a yearly basis. We have come so far. We've created this is what I'm really, really proud of. I'm proud of our entire city. We've created a maintenance schedule, and we're out in each neighborhood twice a year now. And you know that I proposed to ban fill and build also in low-lying areas. That was a direct result of the Dutch Dialogue report. I read the entire report, and they consistently hit on not filling in wetlands, not filling in low-lying areas. So I proposed that to council, and it got first reading. It was approved on the first reading. It never got put into law, but because of that push, it was included in the new stormwater manual, which just came out. So we are doing great things, and we are going to protect our wetlands, and it's on everybody's mind now.
And I know the former Church Creek Piggly Wiggly parcel is still, I guess, up in the air to many people. How do you hope this parcel will bring relief to the Church Creek drainage basin that is?
Well, it's a very unique opportunity, that parcel. It's got the opportunity to be a beautiful park that can serve thousands of residents over in that area. It also is a opportunity to be multi-jurisdictional because you've got a lot of key partners in that agreement. You've got the city of Charleston, you've got Charleston County, you've got St. Andrews PSD, and you have St. Andrews Parks and Playgrounds. Sure. So it could be an opportunity. I think it will be. We're all coming to the table to discuss how we're going to make that parcel work for the community. But it could be a way for our different jurisdictions and our intergovernmental agencies to work together to create some relief to Church Creek, because the Church Creek Basin runs right along the backside of that property.
Right.
We need to have a very, very viable stormwater component to that. But the city's not going to be able to do it alone. We're going to have to work significantly with our counterparts at Charleston County.
Let me get back to you. In your Facebook post, you said this quote, "I can't wait to see you on the campaign trail." Who will be Harry Griffin on the campaign trail?
Well, it's kind of like how I used to be when I played sports growing up. I was big into football and baseball and wrestling. In baseball, at practice, my coach said I always wanted to play two. I always wanted to be the first one at practice and the last one to leave. That's how I'm going to be on the campaign trail. I did it 4 years ago. I knocked on thousands of doors because I was a 22-year-old kid out of school. But I got out there and I worked and worked and worked. It's not going to be any different this time. I used to enjoy standing on the corners of the big intersections in the different neighborhoods and at Glen McConnell and 61 with handmade signs and wish everybody a good morning. They're going to see that again. I am going to work so hard because the number of people that I can see face to face, the number of people that can talk to me for a few minutes and get to know me personally is going to significantly change, I believe, what is a negative public perception because it's easy to take a headline and it's easy to knock somebody down, but it's hard to get back up. But I'm proud that I've gotten back up every time, and I expect to charge forward and to be very strong come November.
You talk about headlines. Let me talk to you about the obvious as we're here, and I'm going to be as transparent as possible. But this is coming from WCBD. Charges against a Charleston City Council member have been dropped by the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office. Harry Griffin, who represents District 10, was arrested for driving under the influence allegedly in late May. Documents show deputies were conducting a traffic checkpoint on County Live Road when Griffin drove due. Deputies reportedly, quote, detected a strong odor of alcohol emanating from the driver's side window, unquote, and asked Griffin how much he had to drink. He was ultimately charged with DUI, less than .10 for the first offense. Those charges are now obviously dropped after the arresting officer did not show up for the court hearing recently. And I know that News 2 said that the deputy has resigned from the department for a job outside of law enforcement. And they're told that the officer had already turned his resignation letter in before the court date, just to make sure. And you said this, quote, "I want to go on record now and proclaim my innocence, and I will be vindicated in court in due time." What proves that you were actually vindicated, sir?
Well, when a judge dismisses a case, it wasn't like the charges were dropped by the prosecutor. The judge dismissed the case in court. My attorney never had an opportunity to speak to the officer. We never had any interaction with him whatsoever. So for anybody to say that we coerced him into quitting his job or anything like that is totally false and inaccurate. You know, I've never really spoken publicly about this issue because to me, it's a personal matter that I don't want to be a distraction. And I handled my business, went and got my attorney, never missed a day of work, never missed a council meeting. I still did my job to the best of my ability every day through that process, but it was a long 2 months waiting to go to court. I wish the officer nothing but the best. I respect law enforcement. I went through a traffic stop. We had some interaction that was not on the body cam. Unfortunately, whenever the discovery was sent over, the initial traffic stop was not recorded. So it was his word against mine. He mentioned that I had bloodshot and glassy eyes, even though I had sunglasses on. So there were some things in there that were, we felt like we had a very compelling case. And that's why I said what I said, that I would be vindicated. And obviously the judge agreed. She dismissed the charge, and the DMV agreed too, because they dropped the suspension. So, to me, it's over with. It's done with. Yes, it could be a way for maybe an opponent of mine to throw a jab or two at me. But, you know, this country was founded on the principle of innocent until proven guilty. People get arrested all the time. That doesn't mean that they're guilty. The judge felt that I was innocent, and she dismissed the charges.
Well, let me break it down for you, Mr. Griffin. I know that you actually received a $500 bond. Do you think that's an insult to the average person who's probably have to pay more when it comes to a bond?
Nobody would have to pay more. I have no criminal record whatsoever, and it was a personal recognizance bond. Anybody that gets arrested for a first time, a DUI is a misdemeanor traffic offense on a first offense. No, I got no special treatment whatsoever. In fact, I got to jail at about 9 p.m. I spent the night in jail. I didn't get out until 1 p.m. the next day. And it happened on a Saturday night. Yes, they have bond court in Berkeley County on Sunday. I went along with 12 to 15 other people, stayed in the same cell with everybody else. And on Monday, it was Memorial Day. So if it had been Monday, there wouldn't have been bond court. But I could promise you this: I never told anybody there that I was a city councilman. And you could even hear audio of me and the officer as he had already placed me under arrest and was conducting the breathalyzer. He asked me whether or not I did anything with my political science degree, and I actually diverted it and talked about how I work in warehousing, because there was no way that I was going to try to create a perception that there was an impropriety there. I kept my head down. I yes sir, no sir'd him on everything. I was completely respectful and polite, and I let the justice and process handle itself. I retained an attorney, and I let him handle my case, and I'm very thankful that he did an excellent job representing me and proving that I was innocent, like I said. And if a judge had wanted to continue the case or felt like there was a case there, she could have pushed for a jury trial, or if the prosecutor felt there was a case there, he could have pushed for a jury trial. But that's not how it played out. It played out how I said it would, which I was vindicated and ready to move on from that.
Now, was this the first time you were allegedly driving drunk?
I'm not going to lie to you. I've had a beer or two and driven before. Yes, I think that any person that is being honest can say the same. That doesn't mean that I was driving drunk. I was not driving drunk. Driving drunk would be being over the intoxication limit. But I can tell you this: I learned a very valuable lesson. In the position that I'm in and the responsibilities that I have, there's no reason why I should ever get behind the wheel after having 1 ounce of alcohol. And I've stood by that since my arrest and eventual dismissal. And I will never, ever get behind the wheel of a car having 1 sip of alcohol again in my life, because it was a great life lesson for me, what I went through.
Now, Mr. Councilman, I know that the deputies were conducting a traffic checkpoint on County Line Road. when you actually drove through shortly after 8 o'clock, before 8 o'clock, I believe. What exactly were you doing in Berkeley County?
I went out on the lake during the day with some family friends, and we got off the boat at about 4:30, and I went and had a several-hour dinner at their house celebrating Memorial Day.
Now, how many drinks did you actually have during that particular dinner?
0.
How many drinks did you have before?
I had a beer on the boat several hours before, but I hadn't had anything to drink in several hours, which is exactly what I told the cop. The whole no beer, one beer thing, that was a summary report that he wrote in the police report. However, he did not have his body cam on. So I'm not going to go back and forth about it. He said, she said. My views on that are completely different than what he said. But we have no evidence either way. There was no body cam footage.
Now, did you have any beer after that dinner? You know, most of the time
No,
people
sir.
have. Okay. Now, I know
No,
the
sir.
okay. I know the charges against you have been dropped because reportedly the deputy didn't show up. But does that mean that you're not innocent?
No, sir. If the deputy felt like they had a case, I believe he would be there. He resigned the morning of my my court date.
When did you learn
We
about
had
that?
no idea. We learned about that whenever my attorney went to court. We had no idea he had resigned. He was supposed to be there, and he decided, I guess, to make a career change, is what I'm being told. But he resigned the morning of my court date.
Why don't you think they didn't take you to the hospital for blood analysis?
Well, because I went through a traffic stop, and only the only thing the officer said was that he said he detected an odor of alcohol, which I had another person in the car with me. That scent of alcohol had been coming from him. And he said that I had bloodshot and glassy eyes, but I had sunglasses on throughout the entire arrest. So never had slurred speech, no loss of balance, no inebriation of my behavior, polite and respectful. I was offered a field sobriety test out there in front of the cruiser. I've always been told to always decline. So when I declined, I was immediately put under arrest. I was not offered a breathalyzer until I went to the jail and was already under arrest. So there was no point in me doing a breathalyzer at that point. I declined that, and I was immediately booked. I followed the same procedure every single other person would follow. A blood sample is taken if there's an accident or some sort of egregious behavior, but I exhibited none of that.
Now, when did you immediately lose your license for reportedly refusing to take that breathalyzer?
You lose it immediately. The officer takes the license, and you don't get it back.
Now, how long?
I have it back now because the DMV dismissed the administrative hold as well. So the suspension of my license has also been dismissed.
How long was that administrative hold?
Since the arrest until recently when the charge was dismissed.
Now, how long did you actually talk to this officer during that checkpoint?
I would say for a few minutes. It was pretty quick. I pulled up to the checkpoint. He asked for my license. I handed it to him. He said he smelled odor of alcohol. I disagreed. He asked me what I had been doing. I said I came from dinner. He asked me what I had been doing earlier in the day. I said I had been on the boat. He basically told me that if I had a beer out on the boat earlier in the day, it would be okay because everybody does that. So when I agreed to that, he then asked me to pull the car over and asked me to step outside for a field sobriety test. When I refused, he took me to jail. We were in the car for about 20 minutes. Then we got to the jail. We were in the room for the breathalyzer for about 20 minutes, and then I was booked. So I was with him for probably about an hour.
Probably an hour. Were your sunglasses removed before or after you were in handcuffs?
After.
Okay. And what piece of body camera footage was produced prior to your charges actually being dropped?
Well, the news media had all of the discovery within 48 hours.
Right.
My attorney did not receive it for almost a month. So several weeks later did we actually get the discovery that the news already had. So I didn't see the videos from my attorney. I saw them on the news. But unfortunately, there was no body cam produced from the initial traffic stop, which I say traffic stop, but it was a checkpoint. Every person that drove through it was stopped.
And how many people were behind you or after you?
There wasn't many. I mean, this is unincorporated Berkeley County out in the Cross, Utahville area.
Right.
There wasn't a very heavy congested area. But, I don't want to get into the weeds. I appreciate you asking me these questions because I've never really addressed it. But, at the end of the day, this is a distraction. Now, it's one that I created, and I have to face the consequences, and I have. But, there's so many important things for us to focus on. And even more importantly, it was something that I learned a lot from. And I think that anybody that knows me knows that I'm not a heavy drinker. And, I shouldn't have had anything to drink and driven. That was a mistake. That's something that as a city council person I shouldn't do. But I'm not going to act like I've never done it before. And I don't think anybody with who's being honest with themselves and with being with others can say that they, if they drive a vehicle, I know you don't drive, so you've probably never done it, but anybody that really drive has probably had a beer or two and driven home. It's the wrong thing to do. We've got to do a better job of it. I'm going to be an advocate of trying to help people find rides home if I ever see them inebriated out. But I have to set the example because I'm supposed to be a role model and a leader. And so that means that if I ever have anything to drink, I need to use a rideshare app or call a ride and get home that way. There's no reason why I need to be behind the wheel of a car.
Why did you use Uber or Lyft that day?
Well, from Utahville to my house would be impossible. Uber. It would be over an hour drive, and I'm pretty sure out of the lake they don't even have Ubers out there. But I should have stayed at the place that I was at. I felt that I was comfortable and sober. The family that I was with felt that I was sober. They would have never let me leave there if they felt I was inebriated. And you know what? I should have thought twice and not done that. So I learned a very valuable lesson. I'm thankful that I had an attorney that represented me to the best of his ability. Culver Kidd, he's an amazing guy and a great friend. But we said from the beginning that I would be vindicated and that the charge would be dismissed by a judge. And that's exactly what happened. So we felt very confident the entire time.
Did you feel sober going up towards that traffic checkpoint?
Yes, sir. I sure did.
Okay.
But I had had a beer earlier in the day, and that should have been enough for me to say, I don't need to get behind the wheel of a car. I've learned that valuable lesson. I will have a zero tolerance for that, and you'll never see me drive a vehicle under any influence of even one sip of alcohol ever again.
Let me turn back over to District 10. What do you want to accomplish for District 10 in the next couple of weeks, in the next couple of months?
Well, the first and probably the most important thing is to finalize the details on this beautiful ecological park that we're planning for Shadow Moss and Bridgepoint, and also to get some of the other smaller ecological sort of natural drainage areas that we're trying to accomplish, and where Walk Drive, which was another area that suffered greatly through the storms. Another important thing that we're working on, that we're getting really close on, is acquiring some land over near where Hickory Farms and where Crosstown Christian Church are, where we can do some really good storage over there, create some really positive drainage that can serve those people. We've already approved the design of a project that will divert water out of Hickory Farms. We need to implement that plan as well. I have a neighbor not too far from me who has a drainage easement that runs along his backyard where the city never put in a ditch, and he floods out. I want to see that accomplished. I've been working with the residents in Hickory Hill to clean out the major artery of water that actually runs through Hickory Farms, Hickory Hill, and Shadow Moss.
Right.
Every single day. And I've got a meeting with some other council members and some members of the county and some of our other intergovernmental agencies to talk about that former Piggly Wiggly site off of Parsonage Road. So there's a lot to be done. Campaigning is an important part of that, but I'll certainly be working my tail off for District 10 in my official capacity as I try to earn my constituents' votes for another 4 years.
You talked earlier about strengths and obviously weaknesses. What are your political strengths and what are your political weaknesses?
My political strength is that, number one, because I'm young, my mind is really fresh. I can remember votes that we've taken 4 years ago. I can remember those things. And I still have that education in that I study our agendas like it's a textbook. I prepare for our meetings like it's a test. I don't walk into our meetings unprepared. I gather my thoughts and get prepared. And when there's a key issue that impacts my district or impacts the community, I'm ready. I'm also not afraid to speak out. I think that's a strength. Now, sometimes that can be a weakness. My weakness is that, number one, I have been immature in ways, and I chalk that up to life experience. You know, there's no playbook or blueprint when you get elected to a very important position at 22 years old. You got to learn on the job. There's very few people that you can reach out to find out what it's like. I'm very blessed that I have some wonderful, wonderful people on council, like Keith Waring and like William Dudley Gregory and like Robert Mitchell, that have really been mentors for me in a lot of ways, and have guided me and taught me how to be a council person. I've been lucky to serve with somebody who's become one of my greatest friends, Kevin Shealy.
Right.
But I think my weakness is that I have to try to learn every day, and I can't be so. I think in the past I was reactionary. You know, when people would say things that bothered me or something would trigger that passion in my heart, I would lash out. And it's not because I'm, you know, a bully. It's because I care so much. And I feel like when I see injustice or disservice, it hurts my heart and it bothers me so much. But there has to be diplomacy, and there has to be compassion, and there has to be maturity in handling that negativity. And I'm trying to do a better job of that. And trust me, I'm already seeing it out on the campaign trail. I've seen a lot of negativity already about me. But instead of being negative, I'm trying to be more positive. You know, the low road is always full. I'm going to take the high road. And I think that I need to do a better job of staying on that high road, because I look around me and I see often the low road is full. You know, there's negativity all around us. You watch the news, rarely do you see any positivity. And so I've got to try to channel even the negativity that impacts me and bothers me, and try to turn that into something positive, something our community can rally behind.
Mr. Griffin, why do people hate you? Did it start with the business cards and the investigation into the mayor and his alleged doings at City Hall?
Well, I think that there's something to be said about that word hate. Somebody that hates you or perceives to hate you and doesn't know you, there's a lot of bitterness there. But I've got to look beyond that. I have to find a way to love those people. I have to find a way to work with those people. I can't spend all my time worrying about them, because if you spend your time worrying about the 1%, and I'm telling you that's what it is, because, you know, they're loud. The 1%, the people that are so angry are usually pretty loud. There's plenty of people that don't say a word, that they still value your service. They're just not going to be out there on social media every day. If you look at the people that say they hate me or that I'm the worst thing that's ever happened, it's the same people every time. And I've actually reached out to a lot of those people, and it hasn't worked out. But I can't keep worrying about that 1 or 2%, because that's not going to do me any good. There's a multitude of people that still value me, still value us and what we're trying to do, and I've got to worry about those people. I can't get distracted by that small sense of negativity. And yeah, I'm not perfect. There's only one person that's ever walked on this earth that's perfect. I'm a flawed human being, but I give the glory to God. And I'm a Christian, and I believe that all of us are made in God's image. And I don't understand the people that use that word hate, because hate isn't something that, if you're a faithful person, you shouldn't have hate in your heart. And I'm trying to do a better job of that, honestly. I've fallen victim to that as well. I've been nasty at times, and I'm trying to be better. But I'm telling you, man, when you're 22 and you're growing up every year, and every single thing you do is put on the news every time, everything you do good is put on there, but not put on there as good as you think, and all of the bad stuff, even the small stuff, are huge stories. You know, I've had to go through my life battles in the eyes of the media, and I think that has played into this hatred. I read the articles, you know, when things are written about me. Very rarely are they right. I mean, they're never going to be 100% accurate, because there's always that little bit of opinion that pops into a news story. I was so disappointed in the Post and Courier. They wrote an op-ed piece about how we need to change the DUI laws and this and that, and they were using me for an example. This was after the charge was dismissed, yet they, in their back pocket, had a picture of me that they've been holding on to. I guess they screenshotted it from something, a picture of me in handcuffs. Now, why would you wait until after the charges are dropped to then use a big picture in your opinion section, a picture of me in handcuffs? What sort of story are you trying to send? What kind of message are you trying to send there? Not one of truth. You know, those kind of things, people read that stuff, and some people buy into that crap. But most people with common sense, they don't.
Councilman Harry Griffin, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much for having me, Quintin.
Thank you.